the Agency Action Show with Toby and Kurt. I am your host, Toby Crines, along with my co-host, Kurt Van Anen. Kurt, what's happening in agency land today?
I almost hesitate to say what's really happening in agency land today, but no, it's been a super strong week. We've done we've made some good content. We released a new website this week, and we've got a new project that we just started on. So I'm feeling pretty good that as we come to the end of the year, things are staying consistent to wrap up. I'm not having that huge spout at the end, which I was hoping for, but it's been consistent. But that leads us to some questions. So I just mentioned making content and stuff like that. And like, I think about, we've talked before, how much of your week is sales? How much of your week is marketing? How much is are we expected to be like influencers now? Or as agency owners, are you expected to have your face out there all the time?
Right. So I think yes, in the sense that I am investing heavily in influencing's way not the term that I'm I'm not aiming to influence. I'm aiming for leads. And I just see this social media as one channel to do that. And specifically, I'm investing a ton of time and treasure in LinkedIn specifically. So right now, I pay for two tools. I pay LinkedIn Sales Navigator plus another tool to help me make use of Sales Navigator. And that's, so this is just the tools. That's $200 a month just in the tools, two tools. Then I have to do, this is just me what I do is I set up bi-weekly events. I want to make it weekly though. And so I do these live stream events where I just teach things that I know. Like, so this next one is going to be on Google Search Console. And so anyone who wants to can attend.
You just reminded me of something awesome that happened this week for me. I got my goal. Like once I got the 10,000 connections on LinkedIn and the messaging spam started to take over, I was like, all right, I've reached my goal. I want to spool this back. And I had a tool I was using in LinkedIn as well. So I scheduled a meeting to cancel that subscription. So they have like this exit interview kind of thing, right? And I told them right up front, like I just jumped in because they're going to try and defend, well, you got to stay. It's like trying to cancel Comcast. And so I just hit them right up front. I said, hey, it's not you, it's me. I set a goal. I reached the goal. The tool worked. You guys did a great job. I'm not upset. I still recommend you to other people. I said, in fact, I have a course on how to grow your LinkedIn without spamming people. I mentioned you on different podcasts. I'm not angry with you. I'm just done. So I need to cancel, right? The conversation completely flipped. They were blown away. They were like, you've done all this without us asking you to. Like they were like, you've already volunteered, you made a course, you did. I said, yeah, I make content. It's kind of what we do. We're agency people. And they said, well, we want to flip the script then. We want to start paying you, which I thought was like such a bizarre end of the conversation. So that kind of leads us to the next thing is like, if we're making content, if we're influencing, if we're putting our face out there all the time, do you think we should be endorsing especially the brands we use? And do you do things like as an affiliate, or are you a partner, or are you just like taking sponsorship money for making content? Like, what's your strategy?
Nobody's ever asked me to sponsor anything or offered to pay to be an affiliate. So I don't know how I would react. My gut like visceral reaction was, oh, gross. Nobody's ever put $100 a month or $500 a month or $1,000 a month on the table. I think it's weird. You get into really weird territory. And part of it is like over the years, I've written a lot of blog posts endorsing WordPress products that were then acquired. I wasn't paid for these posts. I just loved the products. So I promoted them. They were acquired. And now I'm like, wow, they started to suck. And my name is still like, I went out on a limb and endorsed them. And so there's that risk. And it's always, I think it's unfortunate. Like you gotta be skeptical of every recommendation you receive on social media.
Yeah. It's interesting because, and I'm thinking back, like I was an affiliate for Cloudways. I was an affiliate for Bluehost. I was an affiliate for Groundhog. I was an affiliate for, and then I think, well, how many commissions did I actually make from any of those affiliates? I would recommend them to a ton of people. I would put links out and I would never see any commissions off of that. I think I got 1 or 2 from Groundhog, and I've gotten, now, I work directly for Lifter LMS, and I've only gotten like 2 commissions from Lifter LMS in 6 years or something. So you would think if anyone's going to click the affiliate link for Lifter, it would be me. I mean, I'm on their show twice a week. So I don't think the affiliate thing necessarily works for agencies, but when you're making content and it's products that you actively use and promote through your agency, I don't really think I have a conflict with that. For instance, I'm a big Fluent user, obviously WordPress, but then I'm a Lifter LMS person, and those become part of my permanent stack. And so if they were to say, hey, we want to give you a cut, or we want to give you $500 a month to sponsor your podcast, I don't really see the conflict with that because I'm already using the product, right? And I'm already perpetuating the use of its product through other clients. So I see that as being a no-brainer. But if someone released something new and said, hey, I've got this new whiz bang thing, we want you to promote it on the show, it's kind of like, nah, that's creepy.
We have a WordPress user group here locally that does, it's a email list. So we have a local WordPress user email list. Every now and then our official policy, and I run the group, and the official policy is no affiliates, period. No affiliate links. And there's been conflict there where people have like tried to get around it by saying, here's my non-affiliate link, here's my affiliate link, support me if you want to. And I told them, just stop. Like, this is a problem that the younger people won't even understand because they've never experienced a world where online conversation happened without ads. But as much as I can, I want to promote no ads. I have an agenda. I'm not going to say I don't have an agenda. I do. And so I'm not saying I'm perfect or whatever, but as much as possible, I'm just sick of it all.
Well, there's definitely, when you see people making YouTube content that are like real influencers with real followings, real numbers, and all of a sudden they all like one product, right? And they all start pushing it. You're like, or you see them using the product, but using it almost incorrectly. Like you're like, that's not even like a real use case for an agency. Why are they doing this? And then it hits you. Oh, they're getting paid to make this content.
And the original question about are we expected to be influencers and my investing in LinkedIn, like for most of us who aren't professional influencers, there's not a lot of upside. Even I don't know what you're making off selling this placement, but I'm guessing you still need to work other jobs to
yeah.
So to me, when I hear the question, I say, yeah, I'm investing real time and money in technically influencing, but it's not about influencing. I'm looking for leads, and so I'm mining leads. But I think you need to and by need to, right now we have two main lead generators. One is referral, one is SEO, and the referrals will probably still come in, but that's not enough to cover my entire business ongoing. The SEOs, if the SEO dies, which Google could cut us off any day, they could just say, we're done with you. And it has happened to other companies. So I'm like, now we're trying to mine a third vertical for leads, LinkedIn, and it costs real time and money. I have a half-time staff member that's managing not all of it, but a lot of the nuts and bolts of it. And it's a significant investment just to do like not a lot. You can go to my LinkedIn and see how little I'm doing, but that's a half-time person and me investing 5 hours a week or whatever on it.
Yeah. It certainly does add up. And then, so we look at that as like a reason to drive revenue. I think you've got a story about another side of revenue, and that's like collecting revenue.
So it's a funny thing. Maybe we all have past due invoices, and as like a solopreneur, it was always a headache for me to send those emails. It was very emotional when I had to send those, and they haven't paid yet. I sent them an invoice and 2 reminders automatically sent from Harvest or whatever I was using. And I had a story recently where someone was past due on 5 invoices from earlier in the year. Maybe it was last year. Let's say it was the last year, 5 past due invoices. I had my bookkeeper, I was like, hey, look, just email these people. Just send them a quick email. Say, hey, I'm the bookkeeper trying to balance the books. I see these invoices are past due. She sent a quick email, very polite. She gets an email right back right away saying, oh, sorry, check's in the mail now. That's all it took.
Yeah. It's, ironically, I've had the same experience. Now, most services with Mañana No Mas are prepaid, And then if someone goes over their retainer amount, I'll say, hey, you're going to go over your retainer, but I can do this and bill you in arrears. And they go, okay, great. So then we do that. And I think that we're giving absolute phenomenal service, right? So we do the service and then I send the invoice and then I don't see anything. And then they schedule more work. And it's like, well, I can't do the new work until you clear your old account. And they go, okay, that's great. And then I don't see the money come in and I'm like, what is happening? And so, like you said, it becomes internalized, like emotionally. The weight on for like 2 days, I'm walking around going, what did I do? How come they're not happy? Am I going to lose them as a client? How come they're not paying their invoice? They said, okay, but then didn't pay. That doesn't make any sense. So finally I just picked up the phone and called. And I said, hey, I have a meeting scheduled to meet with your people today. And she goes, oh yeah, that's great. And I said, but I emailed you and I said, we can't take any new work until your old invoice is reconciled. And she goes, yeah. And I go, but you haven't reconciled it. And she goes, oh, I thought I paid that. I thought that was like a statement. I said, no, that's not a statement. That's an invoice. It needs to be paid before I can have your meeting today. And she goes, not a problem, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. We're so happy working with you. And she, right on the phone, she just put in the credit card and paid it. And I was like, all I had to do was ask. And then I was dreading the conversation, but then I got reinforcement of how happy she was as a client. Like we do it to ourselves. It's like we almost build our own failure before we even try for the success.
There's an emotional weight that comes with running an agency. And it's that multiplied with all sorts of client interactions in my experience. One thing that I've found is really helpful is having a project manager being the face, standing between you as an agency owner and the client has smoothed over so much for me. It's like she feels none of that baggage, by the way, because she's, not the owner. She's just doing her job. She's like, I'm here. I need to do this to get paid. And so the things that I have emotional baggage on, for example, we emailed someone today, or I should say my project manager did. We said, hey, your site was hacked. We did a bunch of work, 20 hours worth of work without having a contract in place. And this is worrying, or this is something we need to address. My project manager sent this email and she didn't put out a framework. She just says, how can we figure this out? And the person emailed right back. She's like, oh, thank you. How about I pay third, 20, 30%, 30%, 33 over the next few months. For me, I was dreading that conversation, but for my project manager to send that email, no big deal.
No big deal. And she probably didn't care about the outcome very much. It was like, well,
I'm sure she wanted to win, but it's a different. She lives in a different space than I do. In terms of I'm a business owner, she's an employee.
So in terms of stress, like what you were just talking about, how much do you think stress actually costs an agency owner? Do you think it's all emotional or do you think it's financial too?
It's both. I think so let me start over here. I've been thinking about scaling my business. I've been thinking about growing the bottom or top of line revenue for my business this year. And I've been taking steps to do that. And as I've done that, I've required more staff to do a lot of more stuff. So I currently have 10 employees. At the start of the year, I had 2 employees, I think. And with each new person I've brought on, the stress I'm feeling has changed drastically. So right now I feel a lot of stress around, are these projects actually getting done? Because I'm no longer involved. I have 2 project managers. I have a team of developers. I have a team of designers. I'm mostly focused on sales and then, some account management. When the site was hacked a week or 2 ago, I spent a lot of time. A lot of those 20 hours were me. And in hindsight, I'm thinking maybe I should have spent close to 0 hours on that and assigned that to somebody. I don't know why I jumped in. That's this like anxious thing that I have that I probably need to address as a agency owner. What do you think?
I think, and it's interesting because this year I have specifically pulled back on some of my, I would say I've reduced my hours as an agency. Like that's an easy way to say it for people that aren't aware of what we actually do for a living. But I've reduced my hours. But I have specifically pulled back on some things in the quest for better well-being, for better mental health, for better fitness, for like I take time to go mountain biking, I take time to go to the gym. I'll take off on a Friday afternoon and take the dog to the dog park, right? And other people might hear this and go, "Oh my God, he's slitting his wrist. He's crazy. He's going to fold his business." But I think after doing this for 18 years, there comes a point where I'm like, I can't let the business own me. I'm supposed to own it. And I have people on my team to delegate things to. I don't have the project managers that you have. So I am the project manager. And so I delegate it. I have them check in. We're really big on getting things done on time and under budget. So I'm not worried about overspending. I'm really worried about the timing. I just want to make sure we make our customers happy. But yeah, I have specifically, I've even turned down some contracts this year because I was like, it's just going to be too much of a headache for me to manage. I don't want to do it. I'll pass it on to someone else. We take care of the customer. We make referrals and stuff like that. We don't just leave people hanging. But I think the stress is a big, big cost. And I'm substantially older than you. And I think the age is a thing where we're launching our own apprenticeship program to teach people how to run their own agency. And like we're gearing up for like an exit strategy. Eventually, Mañana No Mas will probably turn over to someone else. And then I'll be running kind of a training organization or an apprenticeship or something like that through the community college. And then, time out and do some public speaking and stuff like that. But then that takes us to like, what is an exit plan?
Yeah, this is one of the trickiest things. One interpretation of what is an exit plan is what can you sell your business for and how
Yeah.
easily can you sell it? And the weird thing about that, the more sellable it is, the easier it is for you to run. And so as you make your agency more valuable, you're less critical to the operations. So why would you sell it? At the end of the day, I could just sit here and make a living and do nothing. That's kind of like the goal. And once you're there, that means your agency's worth something. The trouble is getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I recently went through an acquisition process where someone was very seriously going through an acquisition process to try to acquire the Mighty Mo, and they actually made an offer. And I think it was a fair offer, but it was basically 1 year's salary. And I'm sitting here going,
Yeah.
do I want to like be unemployed next year? And for this one, is it worth that? And I get it. Like my business bottom line revenue is way more than 1 year of my salary because I have to pay all these employees. It makes way more, but
Yeah.
they can't take it and just say, go. They need me as part of it in order to run it right now.
Yeah. That's so interesting because if you look at, we talked about stress, right? And then we talk about the cost of doing things. Um, and sometimes taking that one extra project really does, like for me, I had to turn things down. I don't want to burn out doing this thing. But then it comes down to if I had an exit plan and I was building something that I would eventually leave, then it has to be an asset and it has to be more than a customer list. Like, I think a lot of agencies are existing on this. Oh, if I had 10 clients, if I had 15, if I had 30, if I had 50 clients. And by the way, if you had 50, then you'd say, if I had 100, if I had 200, if I had 500, you always want more than what you have. That's not the asset to me. Like a client list is part of the asset, but it's not the asset. I think what makes an agency valuable for sale is process development, is this is where we host, this is how we initiate a hosting package, this is how I delegate the projects, this is how we track the projects, this is how we invoice, this is how we follow up with customers, this is our meeting communication process, this is how we storyboard a project. Like, if you have a bunch of documented processes, it's like the difference between a hamburger joint and a McDonald's. It's like if there's process and you can demonstrate process and profitability through the process, then you've got something that you can sell. So then if you inject your client list on top of a solid process, then you
A
have
friend of mine
real
was
value.
about a year ago offered to sell me his hosting business, and it was a real business. And he was hosting on one of the big providers. So just a shared hosting provider that I'm very familiar with and you're very familiar with. And he had organized things. And I think this is part of it. If you're planning on selling your agency, and this is somewhere where I probably could have increased the value of that offer that I received if I had buttoned up all of my billing into like annual contracts. Everyone starts a contract on January 1st, ends on December 31st. The more clear and straightforward that sort of accounting is, the more easily people are going to be able to make you an offer more easily. And so my friend was selling his hosting business and he actually had buttoned it up really well. And he said, here's what it is. Here's what you're stand to make this year. And I looked at it and I said, I'm willing to pay you maybe like X, which is let's say I can't remember what, but let's say it's 1 year of profit that I stood to make. And the problem with that is a lot of the literature that you'll find online and in books is like 3x of EBITDA or whatever. The idea is like it's 3x your top line revenue. Let's say your hosting biz made $1 million. The business is worth 3 million, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But for me as a buyer, and this is the problem the Mighty Mo ran into, is I'm going, I'm
Yeah.
not going to pay your top. I'm going to pay off your profit. And this is part of the problem of selling your business. And that's why SaaS companies, successful SaaS businesses, are worth more, because the revenue is more straightforward. And
Well, we see that with heavily invested businesses, even in our own space. So if they take a lot of outside investment money, pretty soon we see not a whole lot of development and then a ton of layoffs, right? And then those layoffs increase the bottom line dollar, which makes them look better to shareholders, which helps them increase more investing. But in the end, it's a worse product. And so that's a real struggle. Like I don't want to devolve Mañana no más. I don't want to race to the bottom to make it worth more. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to continue to grow it, continue to invest in it, continue to grow the team, add as many quality clients as we can, and build these super solid processes that we have. I actually record my processes as a course in the back end of my site. And so when we hire contractors, I can just assign them to the courses or lessons that apply to the tasks we hired them for. And that helps onboard contractors. And so when I share that work with a prospective purchaser, that's one more notch. That's one more value notch.
this is kind of interesting. We talk about there's a lot of Ponzi scheme type of things, and we've talked about an agency OS, and you're kind of describing just part of your custom agency OS. And I've wondered this too from a salability perspective. There's this thing called EOS, and it has a big following. But when it comes to selling a company, if you're like integrated into one of these operating system Ponzi schemes, you're going to find more people who understand that and are willing. They say, "Oh, I know that. We do that too. I'll pay you." They just get it. And so this is kind of, if I was going to sell the Mighty Mo, I would probably do something like EOS or one of those other ones that I think you call them agency OS, but that's more of a generic term, I think. But there's lots of these agency OSs that you can that are used by millions, and there's probably value there if you're going to sell.
Yeah. This organizational mindset of mine came about. I used to work for Don Chalmers Ford in New Mexico when I was in the automotive business, and they were going for a thing called the Baldrige Award. I had no idea what the Baldrige Award was, and I didn't care because I was just a service manager working for them. But we had to create like these mind map crazy manuals on stupid things like how to make coffee in the customer waiting space and how to inspect the fire extinguishers. And it was just ridiculous. But it turns out that businesses that qualify for this very prestigious award become worth a whole lot more. And if you get a Baldrige Award, it shows that your business is completely built upon process. And that's so everything from how to take out the trash to how to greet customers to, how to run the accounting department was all documented in a very, very detailed manner. And as an employee, I hated it. Honestly, I hated it. But from a business owner's perspective, and then knowing what it did to the value of that dealership, I'm all in on that now.
Thing as we talk about building an agency that you can sell, there's a lot of very small agencies in particular that do not invest in marketing. And this is kind of the first question we asked about, are you an influencer? But so many people I talk to who run very small agencies, maybe one person, two person, three person shops, maybe bigger, but they don't do any marketing, and they proudly say we get all our business through referrals. And I've come to think that that's not enough. That especially if it comes to selling, you're going to want to see some marketing activity and like leads connected to that activity, because they want to be able to step in and say, we have a process, and this is what you're defining. Because right now, maybe Toby the Mighty Mo, maybe those leads are all coming because of me. And if I leave the company, maybe those leads disappear. And so if you have a marketing engine that doesn't involve you, then maybe it's Google Ads or Facebook or whatever it is, LinkedIn, that you have a process that's repeatable, that you can have metrics on, it definitely would increase the value, I think, or at least you'd probably give at least have more security in the purchaser, you know?
Well, and this is where I might ruffle some feathers in the audience, but if you're a single person agency, a one person shop stop, and you don't have any marketing efforts and you're relying purely on referrals, by my definition, you don't really have a business. I mean, you might be making money. What you have is a job. You've created a job for yourself and people give you tasks to do, but it's not really a business in that respect. And I used to be in that category. I was in that category and thought everything was fine. But the thing is when you go to sell a one person operation that's based completely on referral and you're doing maybe 10 projects a year or something like that, that is like hobbyist level, and it's not attractive for resale. So I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be
What you're
real. Like
describing,
that's
yeah, you're
real.
describing the
So
value. The value is way lower. It's some very small percentage of your bottom line.
yeah, yeah. And so if to your point, if it's completely dependent upon referral, I immediately start thinking about those BMI meetings and those networking things and all that stuff. Well, if an investor buys your agency, they don't have the personal energy to invest at that level. They need something that is sustainable on its own. And so if you take, to your point, if you take yourself out of the equation, it's dead. So it's not really a sellable thing. To me, you become a business when you create jobs for other people. You create kind of this engine that runs independently of yourself, and it has a value even when you pull yourself out of the equation. And that to me is what becomes
And a
sellable.
lot of that probably, or at least one facet of that, is passive income. I do think when I think of passive income, I think of these types of systems. I don't think of it in the traditional, like, there's a lot of ways to think of passive income, but within the context of the Mighty Mo, I have right now I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to build a lead engine that doesn't involve me and a sales process that doesn't involve me. When I've built that, that's passive income for the Mighty Mo. That's now for me, because now
Yeah.
I don't even have to show up for that part of it. I can now step back and I have a director of sales, and or whatever we want to call it. Um, and so one question is, how are you approaching this kind of passive income question, or is it part of your equation?
So I really don't believe in passive income the way that people advertise it. When I see these absolute scoundrels on the internet saying things like, "You need a mobile application and you make $50,000 every 2 weeks. If you don't do that, you don't have a business." Um, I don't. That's not a business to me. That's a dream. Um, but to me, passive income is something I can build and it can kind of run and automate on its own. And I might have to go in and moderate it or manage it or edit it, once or twice a year. I mean, I think you have to babysit things. I don't think you can just put things on autopilot forever. I've got a couple of websites that are set up like lead magnets that redirect back to our agency. And because we're in the e-learning space, a lot of that revolves around, courses, sample courses. Um, and because it's in our wheelhouse, it's kind of easy for us to put that content together. So that's why we have the WP Agency Academy. That's why we have scormpress.com, like that we teach people how to take Scorm content and put it on WordPress. But those are all lead magnet sites that in a way, redirect back to Mañana no Mas. So those would be my passive avenues. I also do some hosting for clients. And while we sell hosting and maintenance, I offload the maintenance to someone else on my staff, and they do all the plugin updates and the WordPress updates, and they manage all that. I just, maybe once every couple of months, kind of look in the back end at the dashboard just to make sure things are caught up. And my clients pay for hosting every month with the maintenance package. That to me that's a fun way to think of
Yeah, in a
passive
way, what you're
income
describing,
to me.
passive income is a spectrum. You have the
Yeah.
person who got super lucky built Flappy Bird, and now he's making 50 grand a month on whatever that through the Google Play Store. But that's like less, a better chance of getting struck by lightning, maybe. I don't know. But what we're talking about is building
Yeah.
what you just described, building a very reasonable system that requires very little of your time, still requires your time. You still got to sell the projects, but once they're sold, someone else does the work. And I think this is the piece that a lot of very small shops miss is that by the way, I'm not a genius at this. I'm figuring it out as I go, but every day I'm working towards extracting myself. And that to me is what really is passive. Like the spectrum, the closer I get to me not being involved in basically working fewer hours. That's my goal. That's what I view as the passive income spectrum.
Yeah. Well, because that's so interesting. We had a note in our notes that said, what's the real cost of maintaining 50 client sites? And it's interesting to me because we just described it as like this whole passive thing. And I don't want to discount the stress of running a dealership. I've been running an agency. I don't want to discount that, right? The stress of what we do and all that stuff. But in terms of money, our hosting packages at Mañana no Mas, that I'll just be really transparent. They run anywhere from $55 to $79 a month. With 50 sites, I budget $300 a month for my guy to take care of those updates. So that's it. If somebody wants to like have a content change or wants, a higher level of maintenance, if we want to call it maintenance, well, that's a different package, right? That's something different. But on just our basic maintenance and hosting package, we take care of the WordPress updates, we take care of the plugins, we do screenshots before and after to make sure that the sites still operate correctly. We don't see obvious conflicts with things. I budget $300 a month for those updates, and we collect anywhere from $55 to
Well,
$79 a
the
site
other
to
thing
host
that
them.
I've left on the table for years and years up until recently, and it required me hiring a project manager who was thoughtful enough to realize the problem for me because I didn't understand. I kind of got it, but this is another, as we talk about passive income, it's a spectrum and I'm just trying to implement processes that generate more revenue without me being involved. You are running these maintenance things once a month, as many of our colleagues are who run very small agencies. Um, and trust me, the big agencies have this figured out. It's the small agencies that don't. What I learned is that we were leaving lots of money on the table on these maintenance plans, not in the pricing, but in the upselling of, hey, we did maintenance. We noticed your logo's ugly. Hey, we did maintenance. We noticed there's a plugin that needs a premium update, and can we do that? And then on the bigger upsell end, we did maintenance. We noticed the contact form isn't going anywhere. Like did you get the email? You didn't get it. And so we're upselling very small projects. Usually they're very small. Sometimes but part of it is, okay, you do it once a month and maybe you upsell 3 small projects to each client. You didn't do the work because presumably somebody else is doing, let's say you have a project manager like I do, or somebody who's sending these emails once a month after they do the maintenance. You haven't done any work. You've now increased the money in without doing the work.
Yeah. Well, and I think we should be like really clear. I don't want to discount the work that goes into getting these clients in the first place. Part of how my original project pricing goes and how that goes is they're going to host with me and they're probably going to stick with me for 2 to 3 years. That's the average hosting account goes 2 to 3 years for us. And so, because maybe they're going to try Bluehost and be cheaper. Maybe they're going to try something different, right? Maybe they're going to try and hire someone internally to do their updates. Whatever the deal is, 2 to 3 years on hosting is what we typically see. And so if I've got those 50 sites and I'm paying my guy, $300 to take care of all the updates and just that basic work, I'm coming out like $3,600 a month on what we would describe as that passive income. But that's the reward for the sale that happened at the very beginning. So I want to be like super clear about that. It's not like I'm just sitting around collecting money for doing nothing. We're paying ourselves for the work that was done on the front end. The other side of that is just as you said, when we go through some things, we have a lot of clients over the course of 2 years that'll say, "Oh, I want to use this form tool instead," or "I want to go over to Gravity Forms because I want to do square payments in my form," like whatever the reasoning is. Well, when they say that, that's great. We'll add that for you, right? So we add that. And then it turns into they need training or they need some kind of tutorial made for their staff on how to use the tool. So we upsell that. And then we go, "Oh, well, you were using WP Form before, right? So do you want us to change all the forms over and then, you know, create that and configure that for you, or are you going to do it on your own?" And then they're going to go, "Well, how much would that be?" And then you shoot them the number and that's your upsell. So we get a fair
I think
amount off of that.
passive income's never passive.
No, it takes management,
I
oversight,
have a
and
friend who
moderation.
has a very successful SaaS app. And by very successful, he lives in a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood and he has money left over. We'll say that. But I was talking to him just on Wednesday and he's he struggles with maintenance tickets and support bugs and he's got people supporting him too, but he does most of the development himself, but he's got customer support people. And part of his problem is people, even if you have a very well-formed product, they want more. They want changes. And you have to, as somebody who manages a product, you have to deal with that. You have to fix bugs. You have to reply to those emails. You have to help people feel taken care of. And his app is not like a game. It's like a business, an app that that runs a business, like a retail business. And so he's got a bunch of businesses
Yeah,
running their app in the
yeah.
store, and he cares deeply about these customers. And it, even though the income is technically passive, he's spends 40 hours a week at least probably working on that, but also marketing it.
Yeah, the people that are pushing this passive stuff the most, when I look at the Grant Cardones and the Tony Robbinses and the Russell Brunsons of the world, if it was really working as good as they said it was, they wouldn't be in my Facebook feed every day. Pushing the next webinar, the next thing, obviously it takes work and maintenance. I'm in the John Maxwell organization. I have been since 2016. And every year comes the push for the mentorship program and how we should all be in that.
You know who isn't selling? You know who you don't get emails from about mentorships and partnerships? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, actually rich people. Like like these people are probably doing fine. Don't get me wrong. They might be billionaires, but for some reason, they still want us to come to their stupid webinar.
For some reason, they seem a little desperate. So, well, I think this is kind of a good way to wrap up. We got to bust on some people wealthier than ourselves. Toby, what's a great way for people to get a hold of you
please,
outside of the show?
come to LinkedIn, find me, Toby Cryns, Cryns. You can DM me there. You can also go to themightymo.com and find our WordPress and SEO services there.
Nice. I am also on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Annen on LinkedIn, so when you find me, you got me. We'll make a connection there. And then Mañana No Mas is my agency, and that's my call sign on all the socials
All right.
well.
Thanks, Kurt. This has been another episode of the Agency Action Show with Toby and Kurt. Hope you all have a great rest of the day and rest of the week. We'll catch you next time.